What's going on, guys? Welcome back. It is Bromley. We are rolling through, going through the get to know your athlete portion of our Clash on the Coast coverage. I've been busting my ass for this show, and I'm excited because it is the biggest 105 kilogram strongman show that has ever been put on. It is the deepest. There's the most talent. There are the most amount of hands involved as far as we're getting Martins Lisis and Nick Best as our judges. It's being ran by our Resurgence. It's being supported by WUS and Core Sports, who covered Thor's world record deadlift during the COVID crisis shutdown, kept us entertained with those feats of strength. So they are starting something big here, and I'm super excited for it. So we're going into Heat 3 right now. There's a couple of interesting developments we're going to get into with this, and there's some things up in the air, but I'm going to compare the guys they have listed and see how they stack out. So remember, so many invites were given to people who are established pros or established international athletes, the best of the best, and they were dispersed across the heats. Then they populated the rest of the spots with athletes like myself who had to win a placing on an online qualifier. Now, the online qualifier was insanely competitive. To put it in perspective, I pulled 10 at 600. That was only good for like 12th place. There were 12s, 13s, a 15. It got ridiculous. A 350 axle clean and press was only good for like 12th place. It got really dumb. Really strong guys, very competitive, and now it's going to come down to who's strong and experienced. So getting into Heat 3, I'll start from the bottom and then finish with the established guys who got the invites. Michael Congdon. Now, I only met Michael Congdon once. We have a showdown here. It's called Stones of Strength. We do it at a fairground in San Clemente, California. It's a really cool show because it's impromptu. If you know the promoter, you call him, say you want to do it, he'll let you do it. So you'll get some really good athletes. It's all open. It's Highland game stuff and strongman stuff. It's out in the field and we're wearing kilts. It's awesome. It's a really good time. So when I did it, I threw my back out on a stone load. And I remember just sitting and watching the rest of the show and watching Mike Congdon run through everybody. And I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I had seen. There was like a long Husfeld carry from the ground. There was a stone put. There was a 5-stone carry medley that was awful. There was a stone press for reps. Everything was stone related. So it was a really cool show. Mike ran over Nathan Goltry, who's next in line to just tear through it at World's Strongest Man. He looks like a brick shit house. Jacob Finnerty, who I put in the same category. I believe Casey Garrison was in that show. Don't quote me on that. But there were some heavyweight pros along with other guys who were established. Derek McCracken was a good competitor around here for a while when he was still competing. And he was at that show. And Mike Congdon just tore through everybody. And he just showed that he was extremely explosive. He did really well on the shot put. He was extremely fast. Did great on all the carrying events. Beat me in the stone press. Because I saw some of the biggest pressers in the area get 2-3 reps with the stone. I did 6, and I'm like, nobody's going to beat that. And Mike comes in and just grinds through 7. And we were all, it was like, I don't want to say cringy, but it looked like a gym fail video waiting to happen because Mike is extremely comfortable folding himself in half backwards. So when he's digging for a stone load, he will be on his toes with his knees all the way forward with the stone almost behind his heels. Like he's just ready to do a backflip. It looks unnatural. And he just turned the stone press into a flat bench press and just grinded. It was one of the most impressive things to watch. He's extremely athletic. He's pretty damn strong. So I was excited to see him in this. Now, I don't have really a good, I think he did OSG so many years back. And I think he had a pretty good placing. I don't know if he took 4th or 5th one year. I don't have a lot of contest placings to go off of besides that in my experience with him. Good athlete. I was excited that he got in because I think he could do some damage with these events. Again, 3 light, fast-moving events, a farmer medley, a sandbag medley, and an odd object loading medley in the sand, a keg toss, which rewards the explosive guys, and then 2 static events. So this is really for the fast, explosive guys. Next up is Mark Jones. I only know from Mark Jones when I went to OSG in 2019, the last time they had it before the shutdowns, Mark Jones took 2nd in the 90 kilo division. Now they gave an invite. I believe the guy's name is either Narimo or Nagiramu. I'm not quite sure. He's Australian and he won. And that guy's a hoss. I was actually worried about being in his heat too. They gave him an invite, but he couldn't make it. Mark Jones had a very close showdown with him in the 90 kilos at official Strongman Games 2019. So I was happy to see him on the list. Mark Jones is built like a 231. I actually talked to him for a minute at the hotel in Daytona Beach at that contest because we're scouting out the area to see where we could best cut weight. And we're trying to gauge if the hot tub was hot enough or if there was a sauna. And I'm like, you look like you're close to 231. What are you, 235, 240? And he's like, no, I'm 231. I'm cutting to 90 kilos. I'm like, damn, I think the guy's like 6 foot, 6'1". He has the frame of a 231. So I don't think he's going to be slowed down by having competed in the 90 kilogram class. Now, I don't know enough about him. I haven't followed him closely enough to know what his strengths, what his weaknesses are. I know he put up a 350 axle press. I know his deadlift is pretty good. I think he got 10 reps at the 600-pound deadlift in the qualifier. He's a strong guy. He looks like he should be fast. He just has that kind of narrow, taller build that you see with the more athletic strongman type. So I think Mark Jones, might create an upset here. Next up is Frank Provenzano. Now, I love Frank. I've competed with him 3 different times. Frank is a guy that should do better than he does. I don't know if he has trouble with weight cuts. He pulled an 835 deadlift in training at this last competition and nationals. They had a max deadlift. I think he topped out at a 765, and it didn't look easy, and then they jumped 800 and he missed it. But anyways, Frank has the potential to be a top guy. I mean, to have a mid 800-pound pull as a 231, and I don't think he's that heavy. I think he's a skosh over 240. This last nationals against 73 people, he took 14th. The Arnold 2020, he took 7th. Right behind me. We were having a conversation because I think I was a half point behind or ahead of him. And then we went to the yoke walk, and I smoked him in the yoke by a whopping quarter of a second. And that was my win because I had a bad show. I messed up one of the events, and I was going to salvage it. Frank was the next guy eligible for a pro card because everyone else was either a pro or international. So I wasn't going to let him take that from me. And then at OSG, I don't think he made day 3. So after nationals, Frank put up a post about how he was tired of getting beat by me in my dad shoes and my sweats because I look with my New Balances. I wear these like soggy gray New Balances, and I just look like a dad who's about to go mow the lawn. So that was kind of funny. But Frank is very strong, explosive. He has talent. Again, it'll come down to precision with these moving events, and we'll see if he's there. Tyler Young. I don't know a lot about Tyler Young other than his Instagram. Strong presser, strong squatter, but Tyler is short from what I hear. We're constantly getting jokes on our thread for the people that qualified about being able to use the block in the medley to stand on as a shelf to load the other event. So Tyler is going to be at a disadvantage because the keg throwing and all of the moving events favor guys with a longer stride. That is going to be very, very hard for him to make up. So even if he wins outright the 2 static events, he's going to have a hard time making up ground because even if he's relatively fast, you still have to be faster than the guys in your group. At some point, you just keep your fingers crossed and hope that somebody messes up because when you're at that big of a disadvantage, that's really all you can do. This looked like a pretty dense heat because Anthony Diehl was one of the first guys to get an invite. Now, Anthony Diehl, first place, America's Strongest Man last year. He had a rapid upswing over, I'd say, the last 3 years where he went from being new and green to strong but kind of making a lot of mistakes to now he's really strong and making less mistakes but still making mistakes. Now, Anthony Diehl is feeling himself. Now, there was, I don't want to call it drama, it was a funny incident where he was deadlifting on the car deadlift frame, got extremely excited and posted that he was putting all the other pros on notice that was his event. And that led to a bunch of rebuttal posts where people were commenting on how differently it feels to get through training when you're put on notice. And Diefenbaugh posted himself with a reverse band deadlift standing on a box against chains on a platform that was his event. No man, that he was putting everybody else on notice. That was his event. So the guys had a lot of fun with it. That Diehl was starting to feel himself quite a bit. And that's the thing about being at this level is there isn't really an alpha. It's alpha centric. Everybody's kind of that same like established, strong, stubborn, proud, and so on. So when you overreach a little bit, you get checked pretty hard. But watching Diehl go through his training, I mean, he was just getting his close. I think he's around a 600-pound front squat. He's very strong overhead, but there's little inefficiencies I see, little inefficiencies in the way he moves, where I don't think he's gotten beaten enough times off of those small little mistakes where he takes them quite as seriously. So I was actually having him pegged for being a potential upset because he is so good at so many things. But this specific contest requires perfect execution across 3 moving medleys that don't allow any mistakes, and they're going to be razor thin. So even as strong as he is, I could have seen somebody sneaking away his top 2 positioning to get into the finals. Now, we'll never know because one of the mistakes Diehl made was going to some Serbian power event in another country, and he competed. It looked like Wes Claiborne was there and Travis Ortmeyer was there. And I get the feeling when you're good and you want to start playing around with the big boys, but he did that something like 3 weeks before the biggest 105 kilogram show in the world. You know, a friend of mine was talking about bodybuilding, and he was talking about stories of, you know, guys would observe how everybody would do their training and how they would prep and how that would fuel them to do more and to reach harder. And how, you know, if one guy, it's like Dorian, was, you know, looking at somebody who was, you know, taking a vacation so many weeks out while he's just bleeding and breaking himself. And he would look at this guy and say, you're going to pay for that. And that was the sense I had when Diehl did that show, because it almost showed a kind of disrespect. Now, there's plenty of guys who compete a lot, and I'm not going to say it's disrespectful, but there's a sense of feeling when you start to get good that you start to feel that you're invincible. And that's something I think everybody experiences until life comes in and shows you that you, in fact, are not invincible. So my thought that popped into my head when I saw he was doing that show, especially since we're getting ready for 11 events in 3 days, which is above what, you know, most of us are conditioned to do at any given time, that's a recipe for injury. Well, lo and behold, Diehl came back 2 days later, tried an axle clean, which again is the highest risk event, and it's in the finals, which means you have to get through the qualifiers to get to the max axle clean. Apparently did an axle clean, blew his bicep. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that that's a byproduct of the stress he put on his body trying to run through that show in preparation for this show. So that's a lesson to be learned. I am sad he's not going to be there because he did win ASM. He is nasty strong, and he does deserve to be represented in this show. So that's just another person who should be here but isn't. And it makes the contest bittersweet because we want this to be the most dense, most competitive show that there is. So every time one of the top guys falls out, it's not a good day. But anyways, Diehl was going to be one of my favorites to take this with an asterisk. And that is underestimating how precise you have to be with these light, fast events. Now we'll never know. So there's 4 guys left. I don't know if they're going to add a 5th, if they're going to move somebody into this heat, because I believe there is a heat with 6 people in it. So that would make them all 5 across the board. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. So right now we have 4 people: Tyler Young, Provenzano, Mark Jones, and Congdon. Congdon, assuming he's in as good a shape as he was a few years ago when I saw him, and he looks like he's about as strong, Congdon is probably my favorite to win. As strong as Tyler Young is, I don't think he's going to be fast enough on the moving events. Congdon and Provenzano will probably be my picks, assuming again that Frank cleans his stuff up and is precise. It's going to be really interesting in this group to see who is precise on these movements. Now, there's also the fact of the squat, because I pointed out that there are a lot of actively bad squatters in strongmen, despite being great deadlifters, great athletes, great movers. So I don't know out of this group who is going to have trouble on the squat. Tyler Young will likely win the squat, especially now that Diehl is out. Provenzano, just because his lower body's so statically strong, I have a hard time seeing him zero the squat, but I have no idea what kind of squatter he is. Mark Jones, on the other hand, he's built a little lanky. I don't have any squat videos to go off of, but he is built like the type of athlete who might be a really good deadlifter, more so than a squatter. So honestly, I can't really predict. I have no idea how the squatting is going to go. Tyler Young's going to win. It's possible that one or more of these guys is going to zero, but I have no idea. I can't make that prediction. And that will really upset the point placings, because whoever blows through all of the moving events might struggle with the squat. That might just turn things on its head, because if you zero an event, that's 5 points you're giving up right off the bat. So that's the interesting thing here. As far as the moving events, it's going to be pretty close. I wouldn't be surprised if it's Congdon and Jones on all the moving events. And we'll see what kind of edge Provenzano gets from the static movements, because these other guys are no slouches. So I don't know that Provenzano is so much stronger that he's going to be able to overtake Jones or Congdon, because they are very fast, very athletic. It's going to be an interesting one to watch. So that's Heat 3, guys. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We got 3 more heats to go. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.